And you mentioned the characteristics that are required to be successful in test matches as a team. With this upcoming Ashes series, is that something that the current Australian team has to focus on, some of those characteristics?
It's a good question, isn't it? What's it take to win an Ashes series? A lot's got to go well, and you've got to have a really good talent base. But we've got a blank sheet of paper now. We didn't do well in India. You can look at it whatever way. 4 blot in India, it was pretty humiliating. The players have got to recognise that there's a fair shortcoming in skill or performance or commitment. You can put out the traits, you can write them on a whiteboard, and you can stand there and address that, and you've got to own those traits. But before you can get better, you've got to admit that there is a vulnerability. And anyone that doesn't totally commit at that level, the really sharp end of cricket, then you need to step away and let someone else come through. What I'd be excited about today, if I was a young player going to England and with so many opportunities, Michael Clarke standalone, awesome. What a great calendar year he had last year. His back's a bit iffy. Let's hope he gets through, because gosh, we do need him, and we need his leadership out there. The bowlers, great chance, like 1989, worst team ever to arrive in England. I think we were too in 1977. The Fleet Street press just love it, don't they? They just absolutely, verbal diarrhoea. They have a dash, and why wouldn't they? But you can own that stuff and read it, or you can actually focus, like a blowtorch, and say, I've been given this opportunity in life to become a test cricketer. And look, everyone who's worn one of those caps can say unashamedly that it's helped shape who they are, what they've become, what they stand for. The clarity and simplicity of it, we shouldn't underestimate that once you're focused. So our guys now have got a big blank sheet of paper. They start from scratch. They've got an equal opportunity from the moment the first ball's bowled in that test match, and why wouldn't you grab it? We don't know much about them. In 5 years' time, they can be superstars, and we should encourage them to be.
From a bowling attack point of view, there's been a fair bit of enthusiasm for the Aussie paceman. How do you see them?
Gosh, Stark could be anything over there. It's just a few days from the anniversary of the 1975 inaugural World Cup or Prudential Cup. Gary Gilmore was a left-hander, took 5 wickets in the final and I think 6 wickets in the semi-final to destroy England. Gus was extraordinary. I love the way, a bit like Wasim Akram, how he bends the ball back and he runs it away from the right-hander. He could be anything over there. I mean, what a contrast. Sid's is just going to charge in, isn't he? He just hits the bat hard all day. Wonderful stuff. The ball will remain reasonably shiny over there, but if it stays dry, the reverse swing will come into it. So there'll be a role for some of the other. Watson could come into play. Pattinson, let's hope that he gets it all together. I think our attack's actually good. The batting is Rogers going to step in? He seems to be going well at county level these days. Hope he does. Cohen, I like his technique, but gee, the rest of it, it's about time Watto stood up, and for whatever reason, just score runs. I like the choice of Haddon. I think he'll provide some good leadership with Michael Clarke. Whether Warner gets a game, gee, that'll be an interesting one to watch. Is it enough to just practice in the nets? Under match circumstances. He's got a couple of ticks in the box or crosses in the box. I don't know. I'd like to think at some stage he can break his way into the side, because I think he's got a lot of talent. He scored a couple of test hundreds pretty early on in his career. He knows what it takes against really class bowling in South Africa. So, I'd probably look at Rogers and Cohen to open the batting. You could say, well, Watson will go in there, but I don't know. You've got Michael Clarke at 4, and then there's a chance for you could pick any one of 3 or 4 players to go 5 and 6 and 7. The attack picks itself. I think it's still very much up for grabs at the moment. I don't think that team is crystallised by a long shot.
And what about the English team? They're much vaunted, and they've put the scores on the board.
They've welded themselves into and moulded themselves into a rock solid unit, a bit like we were in the mid 70s under Ian Chappell. Not too many new names came into the mix, but Jimmy Anderson, he's just taken his 300th Test wicket. He's a genuine superstar now. They've got about 4 bowlers or 5 that have been in that mix for 4 years. So their attack is brilliant, and I think their batting lineup. They've lost Strauss, but not much has changed. And I think young Root, I haven't seen much of him, but apparently he looks like he's a real comer. So he'll be added into the mix, but the rest of them will stay significantly stable. And I think they'll know that. Their ability to win in all sorts of circumstances. We need to pressure them with some early wickets early on in every one of the Test matches, and we could pinch a Test match from them easy. Gosh, when the ball's whooping around a bit, it's not easy at 150 or 155 kilometres an hour. It doesn't matter how long you've been together and how good a player you are. If a bowler's in the zone, has a day out, as we saw Bob Massey in his first Test match, he takes 16 wickets. Where did he come from? Now, where did he go to as well? But that's the real opportunity. When your preparation meets opportunity, then you have a real chance of success.
And Trent Bridge, I think, is where the first Test is being played. Have you got any memories of that venue?
Oh, look, I think Trent Bridge, was Boycott's 100th 100 there. We didn't play that well, I think, in Trent Bridge. I'd sooner not go there too much. I think that's where we lost. We lost the Ashes in '77. In amongst the turmoil of World Series cricket and the backstories that was going on, I think Jeff Dimmock, he didn't get a World Series contract. Gary Cozier didn't get a World Series contract in the mix. Neither did Kim Hughes. Craig Sargent. So there were 4 guys that were in the mix but not in the other mix, and there was a bit of backstory going on. I think we fell apart a bit at Trent Bridge.